What's up, U.S. History people? This is Mr. Norris.
And Mr. Lawrence.
And we have video 2 for you with the launching of a new nation packet. This one is on strict versus loose interpretation of the Constitution. So let's get started. We're going to first define what strict interpretation is. And this is when you read the Constitution as it is written and is also taking a narrow view of the document. So basically what this means is unless something is specifically spelled out in the Constitution that the government can do it, then the government cannot. So unless it's mentioned in there, you are not allowed to do that. It's important to note who had this view and the political party that had this view as well. And going back to the Anti-Federalists that we studied last unit with the Constitution, two people that had this view were Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. Again, they kind of feared the power of a strong central government. And the political party that they are members of are the Republicans, who really were very similar to the old Anti-Federalists that we studied last unit.
Mr. Norris, so sometimes the Republicans referred to as the Jeffersonian Republicans?
Yes, definitely no Republicans, Jeffersonians, Jeffersonian Republicans, and Democratic Republicans. There's a whole bunch of names. And for the record, they have nothing to do with the current Democratic or Republican parties.
Did they have something to do with Thomas Jefferson?
They did. They were all Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, so on the flip side of strict interpretation, we have what's referred to as loose interpretation, or the idea that we would interpret the meaning of the Constitution as a living document. Sometimes in our modern terms, we refer to it as a living document because it has a broad view. It can kind of breathe and grow with the times. So the people who supported this idea were Alexander Hamilton, and we know Alexander Hamilton, and very often we align him with the Federalists. So again, people who believed in a strong central government believed in a loose interpretation that would give the federal government more powers, i.e. maybe bringing in a new bank.
Mr. Lawrence, what did Alexander Hamilton and his followers reference that gave them power to do this?
All right, I believe it's referred to as the necessary and proper clause, or sometimes if I'm stretching it, it's called the
elastic clause. Very nice.
Good.
Definitely know that. Be familiar with both of those terms. Again, we learned that in the last unit. All right, so now we see two opposing views that lead to the growth of the first political parties in the United States. This is ironic because George Washington warned against political parties, but they developed anyway. So remember, political parties are what part of the United States Constitution? They're not found in there, so that is part of the unwritten Constitution. There are a couple things that are not mentioned in the Constitution that do exist, like the cabinet as well. And political parties developed out of customs and traditions, and we covered some of those customs and traditions in the last video. And the debate between Federalists and Anti-Federalists, or the Republicans or Jeffersonians, over the ratification revealed the existence of differences of opinion on government.
So ladies and gentlemen, just again, remember, customs and traditions, these are things that are not specifically defined within the Constitution, but have been around really since our founding. Right now we're studying this around the time period of October, November, Thanksgiving, one of my favorite holidays in the United States. Now, it's not a law that you eat something specifically, but Mr. Norris, your family, probably mine as well, what do we traditionally eat during Thanksgiving?
Turduckens.
Ooh, close.
No, I've never had one. Turkey.
That sounds good, though.
Have you had a turducken?
Yes, I have.
Is it good?
It was a little dry, but I think it might have been the cook's fault, not necessarily the turkey or the ducken.
If you have had a turducken before, write it down and tell us about it in class, because I'd love to hear about it.
All right. So again, just remember, customs, traditions, not specifically stated within the Constitution, but are a part of our system.
All right, so let's go to the Federalists and identify this political party. The leader, again, as we mentioned, was Alexander Hamilton, and he had the support of the upper class or the wealthy. And he believed that the government should be in the hands of the national government or the federal or the central government. And he was all about trade. So he believed that the economy should be based on manufacturing, that different regions, specifically New England in the north, would manufacture goods and then trade them. They were pro-British with foreign affairs, and this was kind of questioned at the time. Why would you be pro-British when the United States just broke away from Britain? And he was all about it because he favored trade. Now, again, as we mentioned before, he favored the national bank. He was pro-bank, and he used the necessary and proper, or the elastic clause, to have it created.
All right, so on the other side of these emerging political parties, we have the Federalists, and we also have the Jeffersonian Republicans. Surprise, surprise, led by Thomas Jefferson himself. So very often we see support among the working class. So these are the merchants, the farmers, the people who maybe do not have as much wealth, who would maybe not benefit as much from something like a bank. So government in the hands of the states. Again, Jefferson talked very often about the power staying with the states, the power staying with the people, a more democratic view. The economy based on agriculture. Thomas Jefferson, I think, specifically talked about all Americans should be connected to agriculture and really become a farmer so you can be self-sustaining. When it comes to foreign affairs, he was pro-French. Again, this is at the time period you've studied before with the growth of the French Revolution, and someone like Jefferson believed the Americans should be supporting that democratic movement. And finally, on the bank, definitely opposed the bank, saw the creation of a national bank as something that violated the Constitution because it's not specifically defined or given to the federal government.
So would he loosely or strictly interpret the Constitution?
He would absolutely strictly.
Until
something
we'll find out.
Right.
We'll find out in the next video or 2 videos from now. If you know it, let us know in class. All right, guys, please flip to the video response sheet at the end of your packet. And under video response number 2, please answer the following in at least 3 sentences. Some of you are now writing in 3 complete sentences and receiving full credit. If that is you, fix that right now.
We're learning to write like
historians. And historians write in many sentences at least 3. So your question that you need to answer is, what are the positives of interpreting the Constitution loosely? Make sure 3 sentences and tell us if you've had a turducken. Have a good day, guys.